Did two 17-year-olds both have involvement trying to murder the person that one of them went on a date with? On the morning of March 29th, 2022, a man called the Springdale Police Department to report an incident that happened in the early morning hours, like around 2 a.m. The man told police that around 2 a.m., he was supposed to be meeting a girl named Halee Valdez in the area of Silent Grove and Pump Station there in Springdale, and that he and Halee had arranged to meet at this location at 2 a.m. to talk about a date that they had 2 days prior on March 27th. According to the victim, instead of he and Halee talking about the date that they had 2 days prior, Halee brought her boyfriend, David Magana, with her to the park, and Halee and David started shooting at the victim. An officer was able to meet with the victim in Tawnytown. He saw several bullet holes in the victim's vehicle, which was a Cadillac ATS. And the victim talked to police about his relationship with Halee Valdez. According to the victim, he met Halee Valdez a few days earlier on Snapchat. She was talking to him about how she had decided to take a break from her boyfriend. And so the victim and Halee went and got ice cream for a little date on March 27th. According to the victim, he picked up Halee. They went out, they got some ice cream. They parked in the Lowe's parking lot there in Springdale to talk. And Halee, while they were talking in this parking lot, told the victim that she was pregnant with David Magana's child, but she wanted to take a break from him. During the course of this conversation, Halee Valdez told the victim that her boyfriend, David Magana, was a drug dealer and that she was going to have to tell David about this date that she went on with the victim. That made the victim feel very uncomfortable. And he told Halee, like, hey, I don't want any problems. And he took Halee and dropped her off at her home. According to the victim, the next day, he started receiving messages from David Magana's Instagram account, and the messages looked something like this, where David's like basically telling him, hey, if you're not willing to lose your life for her, I suggest that you stop hitting her up. But that's a little bit crazy, right? Because wasn't she the one that was on Snapchat and arranged to meet the victim to begin with? So then Halee started sending the victim messages from her Instagram account, but Halee deleted her entire side of the conversation after she had the conversation. The victim was able to screenshot his side of the conversation. And these are those messages if you want to pause to read. But if you don't want to pause to read it, basically the messages just show that Halee contacted the victim trying to arrange to meet up with him. And the victim was like, how do I know it's you and not your baby daddy? And then he's like, if you really want to meet with me, then meet up with me in public. I don't want to meet with you in private. And show me that you're by yourself. So he was already concerned about the possibility of David Magana showing up. The victim told police that Halee said that she would be driving a Dodge Charger. The victim got to the location where they were supposed to meet. Halee was driving this Dodge Charger, but the victim felt like someone else was in the vehicle. So he tried to drive away. He didn't even really stop to talk to Halee Valdez. But as he was driving away, David Magana opened the passenger door and started shooting at the victim. According to the victim, he was so concerned about retaliation or that someone would follow him that he didn't even go home after the shooting. Instead, he went to his workplace and waited there. He said that he was afraid to call police. He didn't know what to do. He waited until he talked to someone and they were like, hey man, I think that you should call the police and let them know. And so that's what he did. Police did go to the scene where the shooting allegedly occurred, and they were able to find 10 shell casings there in that parking lot. In addition to all of the bullet holes in the victim's car and the shell casings that the police found, there was actually more evidence that proved that a shooting actually did happen, because as it turned out, around 1:45 a.m. on the morning of the shooting, police were called to that area due to reports of a shooting. When police got to the location, they said that there wasn't anybody there. They didn't see anything. And so they just left until I think it all came together whenever the victim called the police several hours later, at like 10 a.m. So Halee Valdez and her mother were called to come up to the police station for an interview because Halee was a minor at the time of the shooting. And Halee basically just told police, first of all, her mom had no knowledge of anything about this, but Halee told police that she was in an on again, off again relationship with David Magana and that she did go on a date with the victim. She said that on the morning that the shooting happened, that David Magana came to her house and picked her up and had her message the victim, reassuring the victim that nothing was going to happen so that the victim would come and meet Halee, but it was actually David Magana. Halee told police that after David picked her up from her address, that they went by David's house and got the firearm and then went to the location to meet the victim with the victim. And then after the shooting, Halee says that David Magana dropped her back off at her house. David Magana wasn't home when police tried to talk to him, but his mother did call the police department when David returned home to tell police that David returned home on foot. David was also a minor, so David and his mother went to the police department to answer some questions. Of course, David wisened up and pleaded the fifth to all of the questions. And police did tell the mom, like, hey, when the Dodge Charger shows up, when you find where it is, would you please let us know? Because it's evidence in this case. So 17-year-old Halee Valdez was arrested and charged with attempted capital murder, attempted unlawful discharge from a vehicle in the first degree, and terroristic act. Now, David Magana, for his part, was charged with attempted capital murder, attempted unlawful discharge of a firearm from a vehicle in the first degree, committing a terroristic act, and handgun felony possession by a minor. So according to 5 News, Joshua Robinson, the Benton County prosecutor, confirmed to them that on January 18th, 2024, Halee Valdez and David Magana were both sentenced. David Magana was sentenced to 18 years in prison, while Halee Valdez was sentenced to 14 years in prison. I'm assuming right now that they are in juvenile detention because they aren't in the Benton County Detention Center from what I can see. So I'd be interested to see what portion of their sentences these two will have to serve, whether it's adults at 100% because of the new law or what.